Silver Snow. Chances are, if you ask those who have beaten every path in Fire Emblem 3 Houses, they are most likely to call Silver Snow the worst of them all. I've talked about this before in my ranking of the story routes of 3 Houses, which you can check out here if you haven't already, but something I haven't touched on much is just how plain weird some of this route is. Beyond the obvious head-scratcher ending, where Rhea goes berserk, you've got a number of questions that pretty much no one can answer. 1. What in the name of Sothis did Flame forget in the Holy Mausoleum?
I forgot something important at the Holy Mausoleum. I told my brother that I had to go back for it no matter what, and so here I am. 2.
Why does the game give you this weird choice of lending the support of the Knights of Ceres to Gilbert, when Seteth will override your choice anyway? And 3. What the hell is happening here?
It has been a lifetime, hasn't it, Professor? Yes, I thought so too.
This is probably the weirdest, most bizarre story moment in the game. We knew Dimitri was killed in the battle at Gronder from the scene before, and Dimitri himself was hardly relevant in the church route. Byleth and him barely even talked, so to have Dimitri appear here is something that would totally blindside most players, as I know it totally caught me by surprise.
Everyone gives such complicated advice, and I can never quite grasp it all. That is why, Professor, I came here to explain my decision. I have no resources to take back the kingdom capital, much less to defeat the Empire, and that is why...
Professor, you will catch a cold sleeping in a place like this. Is something the matter?
And that's how Dimitri disappears. Byleth is implied to wake up here, suggesting that Dimitri was dead all along and was merely dreamed up by the Ashen Demon. But to be fair, the idea that Byleth could have dreamed this encounter doesn't really satisfy. Could there be another, more satisfying explanation? For this video, I'll be exploring 3 different explanations for this scene, looking at the advantages and disadvantages of each. And if you're enjoying this video, leave a like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe.
1. The Dream Theory.
At a superficial level, most players are probably going to initially come to this theory of Byleth dreaming up their encounter with Dimitri. This is concurrent with Dimitri being counted among the dead at Gronder, as well as the fact that he never reappears after the battle. Dimitri exits the scene in a strange fade to black, and this is probably explained the best by saying that the whole encounter took place within Byleth's own mind. Seteth reinforces this theory by claiming that there is no one else around them. The last line from Seteth is also rather telling, saying that whoever it was might have wanted Byleth to guide them. Perhaps this scene is a visualization of their guilt, felt out of an inability to save Dimitri and their other former students. So looking at all of that, surely the theory that Dimitri was a figment of an overactive imagination is the right one? Well, I certainly don't think so. That's because there are a couple of things that would seem to disprove this idea. I'll start out with the most important point. Byleth never met Dimitri after the time skip on Silver Snow. Now if Byleth had never seen Dimitri after time skip, then how would Byleth have known what Dimitri looked like? Specifically, why would Dimitri have an eye patch in the dream? As a secondary point, Dimitri refers to Gilbert as his real name, which Byleth also would not have necessarily been aware of. If Byleth were not aware of these things, then it's arguable that it would have been impossible for Byleth to dream them. The only other point I can bring up here is something that further muddies the waters. Do you remember the very first dialogue option in the game? You were able to choose between telling Geralt about your dream about Sothis, or your dream about the Tailtean Plains, the battle that saw the defeat of Nemesis at the hands of Ceres. It's possible to point to this scene as evidence of Byleth being affected by intensely graphic and accurate dreams that should otherwise be impossible. Byleth never has a dream of this nature again, so I hesitate to use it as concrete evidence.
2. The literal theory.
Or the theory that the encounter between Byleth and Dimitri was real. When Dimitri steps onto the screen, we at first believe that Dimitri is alive. It's only afterwards when he disappears and Sedith asks if we were dreaming that we are led to believe that the meeting was a fantasy. You might point to the fact that Dimitri appears in adult form with his eye patch as definitive evidence that this takes place in reality. But if you intend to truly champion this theory, then your work is certainly cut out for you. To say that Dimitri is alive here would directly contradict a given statement that he explicitly died at Gronder. On Verdant Wind, which is a similar story, Dimitri indeed died at this battle at the hands of Imperial soldiers, making it likely that the same happened here. Also, why would Dimitri come here? Dimitri had to sneak inside and out of a heavily guarded monastery just to meet Byleth for a few minutes. If it's to be believed from his dialogue that he has given up on getting revenge, there's still very little point for Dimitri to turn back to Garreg Mach of all places. He doesn't even explain what his decision is before he disappears abruptly. If Dimitri were real, what did Dimitri accomplish here? How did he escape in the manner that he did? Did he knock Byleth out? This reaction from Byleth seems a lot like snapping out of a vision. It doesn't seem consistent at all with having a conversation with an actual person. Moreover, any theory that Dimitri is alive seems to miss the overall tone and feeling of the scene. If you review it, the vague dialogue from Dimitri, as well as the scene's ending, do give it a very otherworldly feel. I think any literal interpretation would miss the underlying subtext.
Perhaps they wanted you to guide them.
3. The ghost theory.
The final theory that we will go into is the theory that Byleth isn't in a dream and doesn't speak to a living Dimitri. Under this interpretation, Dimitri was killed at Gronder, but returns to Byleth from the afterlife to speak to them, presumably so as to ease his own regrets. This is the theory that I think fits all the presented evidence the most. Not only does this theory concur with Dimitri's death as stated, and answers how Dimitri would appear with his eye patch, but this theory also is very consistent with the nature of Dimitri's dialogue.
Yes, I thought so too.
Now, you're free to interpret this line however you like, but to me, Dimitri's response isn't one that would indicate that he is alive. It's more subtle than that. It might suggest that he is in a different walk of life now, rather the afterlife. There are many references to life and death sprinkled throughout this scene, and I think it's quite telling that Dimitri's persona here is entirely different. He's not the Dimitri you know from the Academy, not the vengeful Dimitri, but also not the redeemed king. This Dimitri is highly reflective, and his dialogue is centered largely around his own failures, losing all the men who were most important to him, Rodrigue, Dudu, and Gilbert. He acts almost like a spirit that can't pass into the next world without finding a way to relieve their own remorse. The only problem with this theory is the scant information there is about the existence of ghosts in 3 houses. You might be thinking of Sothis, but really that is such an exceptional case, as she is not only the goddess of the world, but she is also literally connected to Byleth through the Creststone. Outside of this one example, there's no other confirmed spirits, although there are a number of characters, such as Ash and Mercedes, who strongly believe in them, meaning that the concept exists in world. And there you have it. Those are 3 theories that I think could explain Dimitri's visit to Byleth on the Silver Snow Path of Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Let me know if I missed something in the comments, and if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Alright, catch you later.
Sir, the Kingdom Army was also decimated, and His Highness Dimitri has been counted among the dead.
What?
I love how Sedith and Byleth both make the most exaggerated faces while Flame is just standing there like, bitch, why the fuck do you think I give a shit?
I am the only one here. Were you dreaming? I can't say for certain that you were dreaming, but if someone did come here to see you, that person only wanted you to see their face. Perhaps they wanted you to
Kill every last one of them!